Good morning. Good morning, everyone. My name is Aaron Sapirski. I own a company called Aaron's Estate Sales in Birmingham, Michigan. And I come to you every Sunday to talk about business, talk about scaling, to talk about money, to talk about estate sales, estate liquidation. We've helped thousands of families through transitional periods in their life where we've taken them from a overwhelming burden of situation to a completely relieved empty house that is on to its next step. We've done this thousands of times now, or helped thousands of clients, and we're growing and expanding. We're located in Birmingham, Michigan. We service all of Metro Detroit. We also service Ann Arbor, and we're looking to grow that as well. So I was driving here today, and I was thinking, what should I talk about? Usually Shannon is here with me, and she is preparing for her trip to Tokyo. We let her have one vacation a year, so she's got to make it a big one. I was driving here, and I was like, what do we talk about today? We have 2 estate sales going on today. One of them is starting in about 40 minutes in Birmingham on Westchester. And then we have another one that is in Bloomfield that starts at 12. So if you're on here, please let me know, comment, post some stuff. I'm across different platforms, so I'm reading things on different pages and on different groups. So please feel free to reach out and any questions you have. The reason that I wanted to talk about scale was when it hit me, I was thinking about all the struggles through my business, about how to do more. How do I achieve more? How do I gain more? How do I get more stable? I think was a big thing when I first started. And I remember staying up till 4 o'clock in the morning, I remember waking up at 4 o'clock in the morning every single day, because those few hours before everyone else was up was a chance for me, a quiet time where I could actually produce and work on my computer without any distractions. So I would use that time to try to stabilize my business because I was afraid. I was afraid of hey, how are you? Sorry, I'm going to see things pop up, and then I'm going to end up getting off track and talking about things to people. But basically, when I started my business when I was about 21 years old, and I was afraid. I needed income, and I think that a lot of people lose sight in money, and they lose sight in how important money is, because there's all this false information out there saying you don't need money, it's not important, all these things. But I remember sitting there at 21, and I had a girlfriend at the time who's now my wife, and thinking, I have to produce income, we have to live, we have to survive. And so I would sit there every morning and I'd go. But I wanted to tell you a little bit about who I was in my story, a little bit even before that, and then tell you about what we've achieved and then what our goals are, and talk about different things in scaling your business. So when I was a kid, I had my mom met this amazing man who's now my stepfather, and he owned a business. That was the first person I had ever seen or known that had owned their own business. That's the first even inkling I had of it. And he would have me do work that I wasn't good at. And he would have me push through hard things like moving a pile of bricks from one location to another. And I wasn't very good at it, but the lesson that he taught me was about hard work and about pushing through to see something done, about pushing through harder and harder and harder until you get a result. And with nothing else, with no smartness, no knowledge, no awareness, just drive and force to push something to it done. And so that was my first lesson in business, was when the first thing that he did was I went over and I mowed his lawn. And actually it was the first person that I knew or that really owned a house even. And so at that point, I knew people that owned houses, but this was my first time doing yard work or seeing what's involved in caring for a house. So I did yard work and I worked my ass off, and I had to rake all these leaves. I was probably 17 or 18 years old, worked really hard all day. And he was like, well, what do I owe you? And I was scared. I was scared out of my mind. I was like, well, what do you mean? I was like, what are you paying? And he was like, no, you got to decide what that was worth to you, and I'll pay you what you think it was worth. And that was my first lesson about determining value on something. And of course, I probably said $40 for like the hardest day of work that I'd ever done in my whole life, even still to this point or something. And to that moment was like the first money I had ever made in my life, and the first time I had money that I had worked for. So moving along a few years, he owned a business that ended up, like, technology took it from thriving one year to completely decimated the next year. He owned payphones, and if any of you know, there's not many payphones that you'll use these days. So, and he owned thousands and thousands and thousands of them, and he would work from wee hours in the morning till wee hours at night every single day, pushing and pushing and pushing and pushing to make it happen. And I didn't know it then. I thought that I was learning really good lessons, and I was, about hard work. But the one thing that I was missing from that data was on how to scale, how to manage employees, how to get so much business that you can manage and have employees. And I think this goes into the problem of most small businesses out there. When someone has a skill or a trade and they start doing it, like a plumber or something like that, they can do it by themselves pretty easily. And they're very successful because they're very good at it. But then how do you go to the next step? How do you take that and hire your first employee? And then when that first employee isn't doing what you need them to do, is like messing things around or messing things up, how do you deal with that situation? I remember my stepdad had an employee. He had a few employees. Not that he managed them in any sort of way. Actually, the way he managed them ended up being a lot of false information that I had for many years, and the opportunities that he gave to me were also the same way. I wanted to be very nice to people, and I still am very nice to people, but he would let people make their own decision, and whether it was right or wrong, because it was their decision. And I agree with that, like initial, like deep down, that base of that, like having people's determinism to do something was vital. But when you need a certain outcome, you have to direct that a certain way. You have to manage it. You have to control it. If you don't have control over the situation, then you're just going to be left with a ton of setbacks. So that was another little lesson I learned, but I basically ended up watching the hardest working person I've ever known, and he's still the hardest working person I've ever known, go from making a really good living, supporting his family. My mom ended up marrying him, and then he was my stepdad, and supporting, his church, his community, his charities, and his family, and thriving, to basically losing it all because of a shift in market. And that was a huge lesson as well. I'm a kid. I'm watching this happen, and I'm watching the effect, the person, go from thriving and winning to being the effect of different conditions, whether it's the market or, people just become the effect of those situations. And that was a hit for me, because this was my Superman. This was the person who had it all, who was doing it all, who was ethical, who was creating, and then just to watch him get wiped out was, it was definitely, that happened as I was starting my business. So, of course, I'm timid now to go into business, because I'm like, damn, this could happen to anyone, and it has happened so many times. How do I protect myself against this? What can I do to be cause over this situation or other situations in my life so that I don't have the same thing happen to me? And you never know, it could, my business, I do estate sales. I help people sell their things when they downsize or when their family member passes away. We'll sell those things. Something could shift tomorrow in that market, and then my business be decimated. I think anyone is prone to that. Or, you saw taxi drivers or taxi cab companies that spent the last 50 years growing this book of business, and just to be decimated. So there definitely is an interesting shift in market on how do you dominate, how do you grow, how do you scale so that you can get ahead of that, or you can not have that happen, or you can shift because you're making enough money, you have enough wherewithal to shift with that marketplace. There's all these different things that are super important to think about. Like how do you get cause over that? But that's what I saw when I was a kid, and I started my company, and it was just myself and a friend, and ended up doing a lot of the same things, a lot of the same challenges with employees, not managing, not controlling, not. When I say control, I just mean good control, so that you have control of your business, you have control of your company. If you don't have that, you can't get money, you can't survive, you can't have other people survive because there's no control. So I wanted to talk about what I learned from my childhood. I learned a lot of valuable lessons about hard work from this amazing hardworking man, and then I also learned a lot of false data about how you operate in business, and then how you operate with employees, and how you grow, and how you handle taxes, and how you do things so that you can scale. And both those lessons were extremely vital, and I'm very appreciative for them. The average small business is staying in one place. The average small business is, like I said earlier, the guy that's just chugging along, or even the small group of people that's just chugging along and they're just going and going and going. They're not necessarily reaching for the stars. They might be like continuing to get a little bit better day by day, or they're getting a little bit worse and worse off. So that was my next point, is why would you scale your business? Why? A lot of people say, oh, you don't need all that, or whatever, lies that people want to put on you. Oh, you don't need to get that big, or, oh, if you get that big, you'll get attacked, or. But why would you want to take a business? Because that's what I remember 5 years ago, 6 years ago, I was making great money. I was paying for houses, cars, things like that. But I wasn't scaling my business. So I was still confined to that business, even though I was making good money. I was making better money then than I am now, but my business is expanding, and it will eventually allow me to make even more money than I was making back then. That's not the purpose, though. That's not necessarily the purpose to scale. There has to be purpose behind money for you to want to go get it, and that could be your family, that could be your community, that could be your church, that could be different things that you want to support, and that would be the purpose behind going to get money. But I was basically, if you're in business or with anything in this universe, you're either going up or you're going down. There's nothing that will stay the same ever, and so you have to make a decision of which side do you want to be on that. Do you want your business to keep improving? Because it's not just going to stay the same. You're not ever going to get to a point where you're like, okay, I'm good now, I can just stay here. Because the second you do get to that point, you will start to decline. And when I realized that, when I saw that data, and you can see it in life, you can see it all around you and everything around you, if something's not improving, if your marriage isn't improving every day, if you're not creating it, it's likely to decline. And if you're not keeping up your household, if you're not, so you have to keep getting better and better and better, or else you will decline. So that's one of the most important reasons to scale, or to get big goals, or to get big ideas, is so that you can increase your ability, increase your life, increase your freedom and your happiness and all these things. So that was one of the biggest things that made me decide that I need to scale my business. I have to grow. I have to get bigger. And I want my team to be doing well. I want the people around me making a lot of money. I want the people in my environment to be thriving and surviving at very high levels, so that they can support their families, their communities, their churches, themselves, whatever it is. So that's the reason of why to scale. Why to scale, you're either going up or you're going down. You have to make a decision on where you want to be on that. My first scaling moment was a failed scaling moment that took 3 years to fail. And because you're in one place in your business and you're good, you want more, you want to do more, you want more business, you want to grow. But to scale correctly, you have to think big enough. And this is what I failed on my first scaling moment. Was I was doing 1 estate sale, 2 estate sales a week, and we were driving supplies around in my truck. And I was like, man, and then I was asking people to throw all the supplies in their cars all the time. And people, I didn't even pay people to drive supplies to and from the locations. And it ended up breaking. At some point when you're in business, the way you're going, if you're expanding, your systems that you have in place, you'll realize, oh, these don't work. So my first scaling moment was then when I realized I had to get a trailer. So I got one trailer, and because I was thinking, okay, we can do supplies like this, I can haul them around in my truck, and we can scale like that, and then we can do more sales. We don't have to have people driving around all the time. And I broke again. It broke once we wanted to go to 2 sales because I realized that I needed 2 trailers. And so we ended up like having an amazing sale where we were able to buy a trailer, buy all the supplies, everything like that. And I thought I was growing again. And then all of a sudden we have these 2 trailers, they're running and gunning, they're getting kind of disorderly, they're like over time, people aren't taking care of them. We're not keeping order, we're not keeping that control in heavy. So then that ends up failing. And that failed recently actually because we weren't thinking big enough in the first place. We were thinking about just adding on a few more jobs or just doing a little bit better. If you want to go from $50,000 to $55,000, it's not going to cause you to think in the right ways to actually, you're going to get to 55 and then you're going to be stuck again. You're going to get to 60 and then you're going to be stuck again. And that's what happened in my business is we went from 300, 400, 500,000. Each year we were a few $100,000 more in revenue, and then we ended up getting right around 900,000, almost $1 million in revenue, and everything broke and we shrunk again because we didn't have the systems and processes worked out to go to 2 million or to go to 1.5. So the reason I'm saying this is because if you want to scale, you have to first think big enough. Let me give you an example. So with basically, let's say we want to go from $1 million in revenue to $10 million in revenue. If we think about what the systems and processes are at 10 million, then and put those in place and start working those out, then we'll be able to grow all the way up into then. And then it might break right there because we weren't thinking about 50 million or 100 million. But if we were thinking about just adding on another 100,000, we wouldn't be thinking, okay, we need 10 vans, we need 50 staff, we need like all these systems and processes, we need these organizational standards, we need this facility, we need these parking spaces, we need all these things that you'll think of when you start thinking big enough. So that's why I wanted to talk about scaling, because I think a lot of people that I talk to a lot of estate sale companies, and they're in the same situation. What up, Jonathan Frost? My accountant, y'all. Thank you so much for everything. How are you? Thank you for joining us. Also, Matt Bullock is on here. You're awesome. You've helped me a ton. But that was another situation. So if you don't think big enough, you will get stuck every single step along the way. You'll be thinking about, okay, we just need a few more supplies, and then you'll use those up, and then you'll be in the same situation. So to be able to scale your business, you have to think about where you are now and where you want to be. Where you want to be in 6 months, where you want to be in 1 year, where you want to be in 5 years, 10 years. And you have to start putting in those processes for what actually can this business do. Each different business is a different vehicle that has different revenue. For us, doing $1 million a year on $55 transactions, that's our average transaction value, is a huge amount of revenue. Where if you're in real estate, $1 million a year isn't anything. Like it's 5-10 houses, So you definitely have to think about where are your revenue goals and what can your business actually produce, and then start thinking about it. Well, what if we, for us, I remember 5 years ago never thinking that we could have 20 staff members, because how are you going to control these people? How are you going to manage them? How are you going to get them to be honest and ethical in other people's homes and all these things? And that was lack of information on my part. That was lack of data that I had on how to run a business. So I couldn't think beyond that scope. So you have to get educated. You have to keep educating yourself, because all of a sudden you'll read a book and you'll be like, holy moly, my whole mind shift just changed, and I know I can do more. So the other part of scaling, so that was my first part. My first thing in scaling was buying my second trailer. That plan failed because I wasn't thinking for 10 sales a week. I was thinking for 2 sales a week. And I was thinking, man, if we could do 2 sales, 3 sales a week, we'd be doing great. And we are doing great. Now we're at 3 or 4 estate sales a week. But I can't just say, all right, we spent 2 years going to where we are now, 2-3 years. If I just go up, all right, I want to do 5 sales a week now, going from 3 to 4 to 5, I'm not going to create the systems and processes, hire the people that I really need to expand and do that. So I'm just going to be struggling. I'm going to go to 5 sales and be struggling again. So going to 10 estate sales, no estate sale company has ever done that. I don't think. You guys can correct me if there's any estate sale people on here. No estate sale company that I've ever known has done 10 estate sales every single week consistently in one central location. And that's what we are going to do. So my mind shift, once you have the big enough goal, you go to, all right, how do you do it? So big enough goal is the first thing. Then you have planning. Now we have to plan, all right, what does it look like if we have 10 sales a week? That's 3 people a sale, that's 30 people. And if we need 4 people on some of the sales, let's just say we need 40 estate sales staff. And then for admin staff to handle those 40 people, we need 3 people, admin staff to do a payroll. We'll need somebody to do this action. We'll need somebody to do this action. To be able to get enough jobs to do 10 sales a week, we're going to need sales managers to go out and sell the jobs and to create new leads and to create new business. All right, how do we train those people? What is the systems and processes for training those people? Do we need a video training system that we put in place? How much is that? Okay, we spend the 20 grand on that system and we put it in place. We do all the videos, we record, we bring the people in, we train them, all while we're keeping these other estate sales staff going. How do we get supplies to and from the job site? Well, we're going to need 10 vans. We're going to need 10 sets of supplies. We're going to need, 10 register systems. We're going to, need to dominate our market. So our advertising is going to have to expand. We're going to have to go from spending $10,000 a month in advertising to $100,000 a month in advertising. All these different things happen, and I haven't even taken the first step. But when you think big enough, you can actually think of those systems where if I was thinking about putting one more sale, okay, we need some more supplies. Wouldn't be able to do it. It wouldn't work. So planning is the next thing. And then the third thing and the most important thing that you would need to scale is courage. I would say this because money is an idea backed by confidence. So that's like a stable piece of information that you can take about money and apply it in any piece. So when you spend money or when you receive money, you're receiving it because somebody has confidence in what you're selling, somebody has confidence in your service, somebody has confidence in you. So more confidence, the more money. I pay my accountant 5 or 10 times more than what I paid my accountant last year because my confidence in what they're going to be able to provide for my business and help us grow and expand is that much higher. So all you need to create money is courage and to be able to ensue confidence in others. We get estate sales that 10 other estate sale companies win on, appointments that 10 other companies win on, and we'll get the job because people are confident that we'll be able to execute on the job perfectly and get them the exact result they want. That is the most important thing in this whole cycle is confidence. So if your staff don't have confidence, if you don't have confidence, if you don't know that you're going to be able to make it work, that is a huge issue. So you have to figure that out. You have to have courage and confidence into the marketplace, and you will receive money for that. You will be able, and then the last thing is execution. Whatever you receive money for, you have to execute on. You have to execute on. I see this all too often. I see it where people promise one thing and then they really underdeliver. I would never underpromise on a service. I would never underpromise with the hopes of over-delivering so that they're excited. I will overpromise and then over-deliver on that service so that we can set the correct expectation. This is what we are going to do for you. That's just being honest. Like that comes with honesty. That phrase about like, what is it? I just said it. Setting expectations low or like under-promising, over-delivering. It's dishonest. It's dishonest. If you're not going to promise what you're going to do, then you're probably not going to get the job. We're going to get the job because we're going to say, this is what we're going to do. This is what the sale is going to make. this is the process, this is the staff members that will be in your home, this is how we're going to get there, and then get them there. But getting them there is the most, it's all really important. I said courage was the most important part, but execution is actually more, probably, they're both tied. Because you see a lot of times courage and people go out and they sell stuff and then they're frauds. And that's just, like, they did all the other things. Maybe they didn't do planning. Maybe they probably had a little bit of courage, because you got to be brave to do stupid things like that. But execution. A lot of the stories that you see, and I tell my staff this, I'm like, that fire guy or whatever, he was an awful person, or that fire festival guy. But what would have happened if he would have executed perfectly on that event? Just think of the different story that would have been told if that event was executed exactly like it was sold. Man, that would have changed the event world. That would have changed people from like Coachella and all of that, and that whole deal, that would have shifted the whole marketplace if he would have pulled it off, if he would have just been honest and executed on it and planned correctly and set the real expectations. This is what's going to happen. And you can overpromise that we're going to the Bahamas on Pablo Escobar's island, but then do it and like kill it. So that's what we do in our business, is we go out into the marketplace and we say, this is what we are going to do, and then we execute it and we hit it every time. So we have 2 sales going on today. One of our sales is in Birmingham. It is on Maple, and the street is Westchester. It's right by all the churches right in Birmingham. Actually, if Shannon was here, she'd give you the cross streets. But the other one is right on Telegraph in Long Lake. That one's awesome. That sale is actually the gentleman that owned that house designed record album covers, and for the last 30 or 40 years, and he designed one of the coolest ones that I thought was he designed the reissue of Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band. I can't even say that right. And he has the jacket, the original jacket, a vintage jacket. It's so cool. That sale is so amazing. Estate sales are just cool because you get to find things that you'll never see anywhere else. You can't go to Urban Outfitters and get this jacket. You can't go and get this original artwork from album covers anywhere else. And you'll find it at estate sales. You'll find the most interesting things. Our Birmingham sale is packed full of stuff. This was an amazing sale. We did it in 2 parts. And we actually just talked to a person over the weekend, another client, a potential client that has an incredible house that is also full in Bloomfield Hills that would need 2 parts. And if you know anything about our company, we do not do 2-part sales often. Like the last time we did a 2-part sale was 5 years ago. So it has to be big for us to do 2 sales. So we thank you for joining us so much. I'm going to just hop on here and check a few things, because I don't know where I'm watching from. Let's see. You guys are so sweet. Thank you guys for watching this so much, and I appreciate it. And I can't wait to show you our journey. We just bought 3 vans. We went from our trailers. We're transferring over today. This is my job to do today. Is last Monday I decided, Shannon's going to Japan, and I'm the one that's hauling around trailers and supplies, and they're a little bit of a wreck. So we had a scaling moment this week where we bought 3 vans, and by the middle of the year, we'll go to probably 5 and then 10 by the end of the year. But and then I ordered, put together with the help of my staff, all the supplies for those vans, and literally within 1 week time, we'll put in place the organization we'll have the vans by tomorrow ready, fully stocked, ready to go, tables, all the supplies that's needed, new cash registers, everything, so that we'll be able to dispatch units to houses and teams to houses. And that's our growth strategy for going to 10 sales. That's how we're going to do it. And if you're an estate sale company, that's going to be important for you to see, because we're going to start taking more and more of this market share in Metro Detroit. And by doing that, we'll be able to, by doing the van idea and just expanding, but that takes courage. It takes courage to put your name on, debt like that. You have to go into that, and you have to take on that debt. It takes courage to spend $10,000-$20,000 a month in advertising. It takes courage to just go and make that decision. So that's what you have to scale your business. If you are a small business, I hope that you grow. I hope that you expand. If you need anything from me, I'm always here to help. My name is Aaron Sapirski, and I do estate sales. So I'm going to get off here.